Are you going through your ascension and you're detaching from humanity? Do you feel less human? Do you want to feel less human? Authentic ascension doesn't mean that you feel less human. It actually makes you feel more present. So it's reversing the detachment of the matrix life where we put how we feel in the responsibility and hands of other people, places, and things. And we take that on within ourselves. So this is where people say, choose happy. That's right. I used to hear that and think, get out of my face. But it's true. You don't control other people, places, and things. You only control yourself. And that's only to a measure because we don't have 100% self control. We are learning. We are still a very young population, a very young collective. But that disconnect that we feel, it's the one that starts to fade as we embody our lessons and reconcile our shadows and our truth and work with who and what we are versus what we've been told. So the more that you reconcile, okay, this is what I was taught, but this makes no sense. Let me dig into what this means to me. Like what matters to me? And you go through the process and then you go, okay, I'm just no longer identifying with these things that I was shoved down my throat, so to speak. I'm going to let that go. That's your moment where you're truly ascending up and evolving out of the inverted truths. So it takes work to evolve beyond that point of assigning shame, blame, guilt, judgment, because that's our knee jerk reaction, right? As humans, this is what we do. Something collapses in our life and we look for someone to blame. Rarely do we go, oh, that's my fault. I invited them in. They were weak. They were narcissists. They were abusers. They were codependents. And I allowed it. In fact, I wanted it because I felt so bad about myself, but I'm no longer there. It takes a certain level of healing to be able to say that statement honestly without judging yourself, even. And so that is an everyday goal, honestly, because your shadow work's not a checklist. No one says, I'm going to go home this weekend and knock out my shadow work and then come back on Monday and go, oh, all my shadow work's done. That's not how it works. Now, yes, you can tackle certain layers because that's how they rise. You heal a layer, it could be very, very traumatic. You could feel like this was the crux of all of your shadows, and it could be. And once that layer is healed and that scab is removed, more comes to the surface. That is the nature of shadow work. That's how we evolve layer by layer. And that's why it's done slowly and methodically and self-guided. Because if everything just got ripped away from you, your nervous system would not handle that very well. And I, for one, can tell you I used to never believe that because my nervous system was trained for battle. Many, many lives, that was my role. It didn't matter whether I was male or female, I was battling. So my nervous system is like, we got this. We can handle it, everything. And it's not true because even in those metered lives, even in those traumatic lives, things were given in a small percentage. Everything was not flooded into the system. If everything had been flooded into the system, I would have collapsed. There would have been fracture. This is what happens with severe trauma. Their psyche gets fractured. So you really want to pause. What I'd like to convey to people that are heavily leaning into judgment and justice and shame and blame and guilt and all that stuff is low vibration. And the more you participate in it, the more your vibe is going to stay low vibrational. So again, but we don't control what other people do, right? So if you're constantly being triggered by what other people outside of you do, stop the access. Turn away from that. If you don't engage with them, then they can't trigger you. If you truly don't want to be triggered, it's two things: avoid that and heal the wound that keeps getting triggered. When you assign shame, blame, guilt, judgment, fear, it all deposits those low frequency energies in your being. Our organs actually hold trapped emotions, and those are the spaces that become inundated with low vibration energy. And those are the organs that tend to give you problems, like your bladder, your urinary tract, your gut. You're constantly having stomach and abdominal pain, and no one can find out what's wrong with you. It's energy, stuck, negative, toxic energy. But once you get beyond all that, so now you're taking a pause, you're not feeding that knee jerk reaction to attack someone back. You realize my soul knows the way to truly heal without constantly re injuring me. Because your higher self always wants what's highest and best for you, no matter what that looks like, no matter how many people you have to turn away from. If they are a problem, if they are an antagonist in your life, if they are a villain, if they are karmic, your higher self is never going to say you need more of that. That's your ego. Your higher self is going to say, turn away from that. Let's go meditate. Let's go put our feet on the ground. We don't even know what we need, but we feel guided to just go out in nature. That's your higher self. That's your guides. For me, I was rocked by my career as a registered nurse. My family and friend group were not what I thought that they were. And my entire way of life had to be restructured because everything was based on an identity that I no longer aligned to. So my entire infrastructure crumbled. And I sat in the middle of it and I watched it fall. And I felt liberated. Do you relate to that? Drop a comment if you do. As I sat there, I realized that I had boxed up so many of these traumatic moments and kept them and brought them with me everywhere I went. So I was leaving the trauma behind me, but bringing a box of trauma with me. Makes no sense, does it? It does not. But that's kind of what we're told to do, right? We're told you got to have roots, you got to hold on to your things. Like, don't forget, forgive, but don't forget. Well, all you're doing is putting another box full of trauma on your back and you're carrying it around with you everywhere you go. You're never going to escape that. You have to heal it. You have to go through the box of trauma and reconcile the lesson, embody that lesson, and let go of the rest of it. Well, you may be saying, but how do I do that? I'm so full of anger. I'm so full of rage. I can't believe I was fooled. Well, you feel that. You feel it until it no longer feels like a knife in your back. And that's your timing, not mine. But whenever you feel like you can take a deep breath again and it doesn't hurt, when you feel like your chest is no longer sore from the betrayal, that's when you can really start to process this. Until you get over that deep wounding, it's going to be too raw. It's going to feel too raw. So you have to let yourself sit with the pain. That's what that means. I don't want any of us to hurt unnecessarily. And I'm not saying sit with the pain for days and weeks and months and years, but some people choose that because they don't know how to heal from it. So now I'm saying sit with the pain, whatever the event was, long enough that it no longer feels like a new cut. And when that sharpness starts to turn a little bit more dull, then you can start to use real efficient and effective ways to heal and evolve out of it. So what it looked like for me was I would say, does my soul contract require this lesson or event for me? And for my life, most of it was soul contracted. So I would immediately give gratitude to the event because I now know, I used to not, I used to think I was just victimized, targeted, and attacked. Sound familiar? But I now know that my soul and all the villains, all the karmics, and all the loved ones, and the friends and the family, and all the things that were really important to me that played a part in these events that I call childhood trauma or even young adult trauma, whatever it happens to be, We all sat around the table with the karmic board and decided, you're going to be the villain. You're going to be the one that breaks my heart repeatedly, and I'm going to let you until I learn the lesson. You're going to be the one that never sees me for who I truly am. So I doubt who I am in life. You're going to be the one that breaks my heart in a way that shakes my entire existence. We agree to the trauma on large scale before we ever arrive. Why? Because our energy has to have it. Our soul has to have the negative polarity lives and the positive polarity lives in order to achieve a balanced energetic state. And that's how we can ascend. So people say all the time, why does a loving God allow evil? Well, if you're ever trapped in a dark room, you will never appreciate the light so much. We have to have the contrast to see the difference. Otherwise, it's all just shades of gray, isn't it? So once I recognize the lesson, I then endeavored to face it head on, knowing that I had to dip into feelings I did not like, did not appreciate, but I needed it. And I would disengage from those matrix beliefs. So all along the way, I would course correct. This is what I was told to do, but it never worked out. This is what I should have been doing, but they hid the truth. And I would always realign myself back to source. The next big thing is that loving myself enough to feel the pain, go through the embodiment lessons, and walk the walk is a true test. So, not halfway going through that, feeling the pain, and then running from it again. That's not shadow work. That's shadow torture. And it's just going to keep looping. You have to, and I don't say like dive headfirst into pain and trauma and just suffer. Take a break, meditate through it, journal. Journal is really good when you're auto writing type journal. When you're feeling trauma and processing trauma, because you're going to bypass the brain and the ego, and your energy is going to flow and it's going to write onto the page what you're truly feeling on a soul level. So I get through that. And the last piece is forgiveness. Forgiving myself and all involved. So when you do love, forgiveness, and gratitude, it's for yourself and all involved. There is no place for forgiving and not forgetting. That is bullshit. If anybody ever told you that, it's a lie. Let it go. Because have you ever felt liberated from forgiving someone and then reliving the event over and over and over again the rest of your life? No, because you never let it go. The energetic cord is still there. It's siphoning your energy away and it keeps depositing more trauma. You have to fully, completely let it go. So, love to all involved, including yourself, especially yourself. Love yourself enough to be compassionate and kind to yourself. Gratitude to everybody that shows up in your life stream to help you evolve out of the lesson and embody it. Love, forgiveness, and gratitude. Gratitude and love are the most powerful energy forces that we have access to. You can tap into genuine love and genuine gratitude. Things will shift in your life. If you are one of those fake lovers, and I mean that by you just say you love everybody, but you don't even know who they are, how do you truly love everyone without knowing who they are as a being? Now, I can send love out to the collective. It's up to that higher self to receive it. But do I love the actions of every single person? No, I do not. But I love humanity as a whole. So it's different. I'm not going to just go around the world giving random hugs. I'm not going to do that. That's not who I am. But if you really, really deserve a hug or I need a hug, it's the best thing ever. So, love, forgiveness, and gratitude will free you from the chains that you've been carrying around, the weight that you've been carrying around of your trauma, your shadows that you have not let go of. And then this is the final step in shadow work. You have to let it go. So we're not going to constantly keep going back and revisiting it like it's a milestone to keep reliving. Because every time you do that, you're dipping back into that low vibrational energy of the event. What is the purpose of that? Why are we doing that? This is what I mirror back to people when they constantly want to go back to how it used to be. You're not who you are today. Let me say that again. You're not who you were yesterday. You're not who you were 6 months ago. You're not who you were a year ago. Today, you are a new version of you, hopefully, a better version of you, but that's up to you. When you make a stride, an evolutionary embodiment stride in your shadow work, or some people, like I said before, they've had so much toxic energy in their gut that their entire life has been wrought with, I can't eat that, I can't do that, that makes me sick, like that kind of energy. So when they start to evolve out of that and they're shedding their toxic energy and their system starts to stabilize, and then they realize that their system was never sick, it was all toxic energy, and now they can eat something that they had never been able to eat and process before. They go, oh, I'd always had trouble with this. This always made me sick. This always made me feel bad. There's no point in that because you're telling your system again to brace. That's the message you're sending. I know I don't feel bad now, but this has always given me something negative in the past. You remind it yourself and your system to brace. So please pause and don't go there. Just celebrate the success. Oh, I can finally have this now, and my body is responding well and it's receiving it well. And this is something to be joyous about and just move on. That is a task. As a culture of people, we are not taught to live our life right now. I, for one, live my life in about a 24-hour window. I don't I don't really look too far in the past because it's already written. And I don't look too far in the future because a lot of free will choices at play in determining what that future looks like. I try to make my absolute best, highest and best decisions in the now moment because that is manifesting my future. That's how I look at it. So when you go through your LFG and you realize that you've been spending a lot of time with somebody who's karmic, and that means that they brought you the lesson, but they were never meant to stay with you the rest of your life, you have to be courageous and faithful enough to let them go. Whomever they are in your life, you have to be courageous and faithful enough to let them go and be on your own because that was the whole plan. Karmics are not meant to stay with us forever. Divine beings in our life are meant to be with us life after life after life. Karmics show up to deliver a lesson, an event, a friction moment, and they're supposed to be let go once that lesson is embodied. So ask yourself, am I truly ready to never give any energy to this again? And that is a spot where a lot of people need to focus because it's habitual to go back to who broke your heart and who betrayed you and who stole your money and who made you look like a fool and all these things. But every time you do, you're rebirthing that energy into your energy body and you're giving it a new home. So you just undid your shadow work. Whenever you ask yourself that question, am I truly ready to never give any energy to this again? In the pause, you want to take a deep breath. Now, if that breath tends to stop at your chest level and not go all the way down to your belly, to your root, then you have more healing to do. And I say that because it'll get clogged and congested in a constricted or closed heart chakra when that lacks faith and one that is still holding a grudge or has some anxiety or fear or something low vibrational about the event. That's your test. But if you can feel that energy flow all the way down through into the earth chakra, you're flowing energy that is unencumbered and it's it's not being stopped by congested and toxic energy, then you have done a great job. You celebrate that, you let it go, and you move on. So you take that deep breath as a litmus test because your ego is going to say, yeah, we LFG'd that, we did that, it's done. But is it? Because you've been telling yourself that probably your whole life, and it was never truly done, and it was never let go of. So if you truly let it go and you healed the wound, you can take that deep breath and you don't feel like you've been betrayed or hurt or heartbroken or anything taken from you. You feel whole because you healed the wound, and you're pulling back those integral pieces of your soul. And this is your journey to wholeness. And so you will feel more present than you ever have in that moment. So you want to make sure you don't have that roadblock around your heart. Walls that we build up around our heart tend to be, they serve a purpose, but they're not meant to stay the rest of your life. Um, you want to simplify your life, declutter your life, and understand that the more you do that, you're making room for more light. You want to declutter those shadows. I don't necessarily mean like um, deep cleaning the refrigerator or spring cleaning your downstairs or like cleaning out your closet. Those are good things too. Those are physical things. But energetic decluttering is shadow work. And the more you can do that, the lighter and more lifted and filled with light that you will be. Stay with me. We have more coming at you on this series.